greatly to re-establish the city as the capital of design. I do not think it was easy for the organizers to organize this event, but they succeeded and proved that sometimes you are still, but that doesn't mean that you're not moving. And as you will see, the presentations of today throughout a very short time, since this press conference is going to start for just 45 minutes, show that this has actually been achieved. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce the Milan Mayor, Beppe Sala, who will hold his greetings. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. A heartfelt thanks to all those who have been believing that the Salone del Mobile could take place. September will be an important month for us, and I think it will be the sign of a real boom and restart. It's an important signal that we have not lost our qualities, and among these qualities, craftsmanship and design are a signature feature of Milan. We now have a museum offering that makes it possible for all those who are interested in design to come to Milan in September, in the spring, or throughout the year. So I wish all for good proceedings. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And now the floor to the President of the Lombardy region, Attilio Fontana. Good morning. I would like to greet the organizers of this special event, Salone del Mobile of September, and particularly its curator, Stefano Boeri. I am happy that, albeit unusually, Salone del Mobile will take place this year, which is a difficult year, but it's also a moment of rebirth for our region and our country. Furniture and design are a strategic sector for our region, also in terms of employment. And therefore, I would like to highlight two aspects. First of all, the value of the supply chain. If it is true that design is the encounter between the arts and industry, it's true that Salone del Mobile must highlight the irreplaceable value of industry. Industry with its creativity and, most importantly, its investments in research and development guides the design system. Secondly, I would like to highlight the duty and task of institutions, that is, to back training. This sector must be able to count on human capital and far-sighted professionals who know what it means to do innovation in terms of processes and products. The Lombardy region has supported Salone and the design system at large, whose history and value are testified to by Triennale and the Added Design Museum that was just inaugurated. I hope that the special 2021 event will not just be symbolic, but will also bring new successes for the whole sector of design and the country at large. Thank you, and I wish you all for good proceedings. Thank you, President Fontana. And now I'd like to leave the floor to two ministers, since the government greatly believes in the project of Salone del Mobile that will take place in September. So, Giancarlo Giorgetti, the Minister of Economic Development. I greet all of you, and I would also like to thank Federlegno Arreda, which has accepted this challenge at such a complicated time and has involved all the courageous and bold entrepreneurs and businessmen who have decided to continue to work and design and produce at this stage. Of course, Salone del Mobile will take place in a different and innovative form this year. All the events of the past year and a half has forced all of you, from politicians to enterprises to citizens, to change And this change should be a change that should lead to improvement. This government, right from the outset, decided to support the idea that Salone del Mobile must take place, whatever the way, because the design system must restart, and Milan, which is a representative, an icon of design the world over, and that has been affected greatly by the COVID pandemic, should be supported. We believe that Milan should be part of a system that involves the government and operators and should offer its strength to the whole world, namely its creativity, its ability to plan, to make plans and to do design and to overcome difficulties. So I'd like to thank everyone, and especially Stefano Boeri, who somehow will make this new concept for Salone del Milano 2021 come true. And I think that we will all emerge from it stronger and more able to show to the world an image of Italy, in Italy that is not surrendering. Thank you for this message, Mr. Giorgetti. Mr. Giorgetti touched upon a very important point, because everyone knows that Salone del Mobile is like a passport towards international countries, and therefore it was necessary to start again and to do so with the innovation and design proposals that have always characterized this event. The Foreign Minister of Italy, Mr. Di Maio, also wrote a message. Mr. President Feltrin, dear companies and producers of the fair system, I would like to send my greetings to the press conference presenting the 59th edition of Salone del Mobile from the 5th to the 10th of September 2021. The realization of this very important international event is something that the whole country boasts, as it proves our ability to reopen attendance to exhibitions. This will relaunch us on international markets and our exports, for which the fair system is a vehicle. Salone del Mobile has always been a crucial meeting point for both Italian and foreign companies, and also showcase of creativity that has always characterized Italy abroad. As the foreign minister, and together with the diplomatic network and the ICE company, we promote Made in Italy through an integrated effort. This year I am especially proud of the event that will take in July and that will be focused on Salone del Mobile. Farnesina, the foreign ministry, has not just supported Salone del Mobile through this, but also through various initiatives that have been undertaken by the government to help companies overcome the pandemic. In terms of export, we have identified fairs as one of the key systems for us. With ICE, we have put in place incoming and communication initiatives, both physical and digital. Through Siemens, we have dedicated a financing line for fairs, and recently added the possibility to provide funds as part of the European framework. We are standing by Italy and foreign countries with a view to starting again. I hope to see you soon, and I wish all participants and exhibitors for the best proceedings. Luigi Di Maio. Now, I need to get my bearings on my very small desk, so let us now welcome Claudio Feltrin, the president of Federlegno Arredo. For the first 10 minutes of our conversation, I will be interviewing you. Good morning, thank you. In order to explain to everyone the guidelines of this important event, I would like to start from the central role played by companies, because the companies are ultimately the subjects you've worked for. I would like to greet everyone, including the companies and journalists who are connected, which are in great numbers. As the president of Federlegno Arredo, I am the representative of a good part of exhibitors, not the foreign ones, because they're not associates yet, hopefully. And there are also some Italian exhibitors who are not associates. But apart from this, I would like to highlight that this event is aimed at safeguarding the central role of companies that operate in our supply chain, namely design companies, which on a yearly basis develop new products and materials and have been doing so throughout a period that we have experienced and that seems to be coming to a close, luckily, without losing their spirit of innovation. So we thought that it wasn't possible to skip Salone del Mobile for another year, since it is a showcase that helps us to exhibit and highlight our skills. We organized the new Salone del Mobile in a way that was suitable for this exceptional situation. But this doesn't mean that we do not intend to highlight the true essence of our companies, namely their ability to innovate and to be propositional even at hard times. And we have proven once again that being a leader doesn't just mean being a leader when everything is quiet and easy, but also in the midst of a storm, when you have to be able to react and to maintain your leadership. This has been a great opportunity for us, very challenging, and we have welcomed it together with Stefano Boeri. We have walked together with him throughout this very short period. In Italy, we are really good at doing things in an excellent way in a short time, whereas we're very bad at doing things well by planning them. So once again, we have proved that we can be unique the world over, and this has been another situation where we've demonstrated this. It mustn't have been easy to organize this event. So can you please tell us in a very short way how the companies you mentioned have reacted? This event has been a very complex challenge and trial. It would have been much easier to give up and to postpone the fair until next year by saying that conditions did not apply, that it wasn't viable. But we put a lot of effort into it because we needed to come up with a viable way of doing the Salone del Mobile, and one that was fascinating at that, as Stefano Boeri will describe. But we needed to come up with something that was visible. We couldn't possibly come up with huge fireworks that would just bring obstacles and complications. We were sure that we could do this. We kept an ongoing dialogue with companies and realized that we had found the right solution for the right time. The solution will be shown after this press conference, during which we will hold a more specific company outlining the technical specifications. But I must share with you that there is a lot of curiosity and enthusiasm about the Salone, and that once all the rules of the game have been put on paper, everyone will adhere. And by the way, these rules are very innovative, so this means that we are making the most of this challenging situation in order to turn it into a unique, hopefully a unique situation within the COVID pandemic. By the way, Mr. President, you can take your mask off because we are at a reasonable distance. and your fans will thank me later on, right? Tell me something about the digital side of Salone. Is there any news about it? This year, the Salone will be launched together. And by the way, there's an appointment on the 30th of June when we will present this together with a digital portal. We have added innovation to innovation. Salone del Mobile didn't previously have a digital portal, and this was due to its legacy, since Salone del Mobile had never been up to the development that was required by the times. But we have now achieved a truly satisfactory result, and we are sure that it is the portion that a Salone needed in order to become even more unique. So this edition will be exceptional for this reason too, because the digital portal will be interpreted in an innovative way and offer exhibiting companies the opportunity to have the Salone last throughout the year for 365 days of the year. That's because the 5 days of Salone are not enough. Moreover, there will be a publishing site that will be very interesting, and that will be a reference, just as the actual Salone. So the digital Salone del Mobile will be a reference that everyone will be able to turn to. And finally, I have a question for you about the city, because you have always been a reference for the city of Milan, and also for the people who navigated at the fringes of Salone, since Salone takes place at Rho, at the Milano Exhibition Center. So how will be the exhibition articulated? Over the years, various events have taken place at the Milan Fuori Salone. For this year, we have decided to stage Fuori Salone at Triennale. Triennale will organize an event that will be ideally connected to the Rho Milano Exhibition Center. So Triennale will act as a portal for entering Milan. This is because we wanted this to happen, but also because Salone is important for Milan, Milan is important for Salone, and Triennale is important for both Salone, Milan, and culture at large, especially in the design sector. So we thought that it was the best choice, and we are now working together across the team. By the way, my management philosophy is based on the idea of sharing. Over a very short time, we've achieved a great result, and this is thanks to teams that have worked very well at the project very fast. This is something that Italians are not used to, because everyone has their own idea. But this is a testimony to the complexity, but also the creativity and imagination of Italians, and we have managed to rein both things into something that has led to great achievements. And finally, I would like to thank those who have supported us throughout this adventure, ranging from the Milan municipality, the regional and the national authorities. I would like to thank them wholeheartedly, because they have been standing by us and have encouraged us to proceed with our adventure. And finally, last but not least, I would like to thank Fiera Milano, because we are playing in the same team, and so we're happy to be together. I would also like to especially thank Alice, which stands by us every year with a view to the best success of our performance. And since Alice has been supported us, with the events we organize here and which are aimed at boosting our exports abroad, since 50% of design products end up abroad. Thank you, Mr. President. Please stay here. Now I would like to ask Maria Porro, the President of Arredo, to join us on the stage. Welcome, and thank you for attending and for being with us. Your microphone is on. Miss President, can you please comment on the central role played by companies? Salone del Mobile is the common home of companies and has been so for 60 years. Salone del Mobile is the most tiring but most beautiful week of the year for these companies. It is a moment of togetherness where each company accounts for its activity to the world. It's a unique moment because Salone del Mobile represents the whole sector of design, which is quite unique, including both Italian and international exhibitors and professionals. The whole world of design, but also private citizens over the weekend. So it is a very open event with an important historic legacy where companies are the main actors and players. While preparing for this event, please correct me if I'm wrong, one of the key words I wrote down is listening, because it's difficult to put oneself in the position of listening to companies that have been through such a dire year. It has been a very complex year that has required companies to rethink the way they approach customers and present their products. It has required a lot of reflection. The same reflection Salone del Mobile did. Clearly, companies and exhibitors voiced the difficulty of taking part in this event. Those who are here know very well that over the Salone del Mobile week we build up entire architectures. So at such a particular time when it's not possible to forecast how things are going to evolve, it has been difficult to try and organize the event as people traditionally know it. And moreover, companies have continued to search for their international partners and to develop products even through the lockdown. Likewise, Salone del Mobile has not given up on the idea of coming up with something innovative, allowing companies to carry out Salone in a different way, rethinking based on a new approach. There will be a different way to put companies and exhibitors in touch with resellers and buyers. Salone has traditionally been a B2B event, even though it opened during the weekend to private citizens. The same will happen this year. So this event will always be open both to B2B and B2C customers and clients. So, as previously said, it will be a very important tool to create a contact between products as seen physically, customers and manufacturers. The pandemic has taught us to take a different approach to digital communication. Even though we are kind of nauseated by monitors and screens, an event such as Salone del Mobile, which is both digital and physical, since furniture has to be looked at and tried, Simultaneously, digital communication will make it possible to promote a different way of purchasing products and of getting to know distribution networks, and ultimately of getting together customers and manufacturers. Thank you all. I know you will participate in the final Q&A session. We know that success depends on the contribution of each and every one citizen, so we will definitely try to contribute to the rebirth of this country, and this city, which needs a recovery dearly. And now it's the turn of Stefano Boeri, the architect of it all. Stefano Boeri will not sit down, but I will, actually. Stefano Boeri will remain in a standing position because he is going to show us a few things. So, Mr. Boeri, why on earth did you decide to skip your holidays in order to organize the September event? That's a good question, and the answer to it is a collective one, because I am soon going to introduce the other designers and curators of this event. At first, we had a few perplexities because we really didn't have much time. But then we started off working with Claudio Feltrin and with the Salone team, and we realized that it was possible to accept the challenge of staging a Salone that was different to the traditional one, with just 7 months to go to the 59th edition. However, we believed that it was important not to postpone it for another year and to give a sign that Milan and the country are starting again. So we decided to go for this absolutely unique and novel edition, which I don't think you should miss. It is strongly related to the legacy of Salone del Mobile, but simultaneously very strongly very new and innovative. And by the way, we're about to discover the new name of the event, right? Yes, right. The name of this year's Salone del Mobile is Super Salone, aiming at highlighting the international strength of the city of Milan and the features of this very special edition. It is a super edition. I believe that today we must and should give a sign of courage and trust that are felt by the designers, the manufacturers, and the public at large. This is one of the first things I'd like to highlight, because what we have done, and here you can see Andrea Caputo, Lucas Bergberg, Nina Coiro, Marco Ferrari, Pasquale Fonder, who have been the designers of this challenge with me. Well, I would like to highlight that this idea of Super Salone has in it a lot of the historical DNA of design, ranging from Gio Ponti down to the most recent innovations. It's a special event because we are going through a special situation. And there are just 7 months to go to the 60th edition. It's also a special event because the Salone del Mobile will be one of the first crowded events to take place in Italy and throughout the world for the first time after COVID. I have to say that I've been to Venice and I was a bit doubtful, but the response was extraordinary. There were crowds, there were queues, and those demonstrated the will of people to get back to normal. The same goes for Salone del Mobile. However, the 60th Salone will not be a variant, because ultimately the relationship between manufacturers and buyers has been maintained, with the added challenge of opening up Salone del Mobile to the public right from day one. Salone will feature innovation, but also products included in catalogs, enabling private customers to buy their products. As the president of Federlegno said, the idea here is to imagine the physical presence of products and the agility of digital communication. So Salone del Mobile will be an opportunity to experiment the encounter between the physicality of products and digital tools to choose those products and purchase them. Moreover, today there is an extraordinary aim by private individuals and households to improve the quality of their living. And I think this is something that Salone couldn't possibly not pick up. It is a fundamental challenge for today, and this explains why we decided to accept this opportunity, which will take place in full safety and will offer the public at large the opportunity to purchase products, and which stems from the chorality, from the ensemble approach typical of Salone del Mobile, which has traditionally presented innovative products such as the Joe Ponti super light chair you see, and other products. After the war, there were families that came from all over Italy to see the quality of Italian products. Renato Pozzetto is an anchorman who is famous all over the world. Well, our aim is to delve back into the extraordinary experience of design in the after-war period. The relationship of Super Salone with Triennale has already been outlined. Well, Super Salone is a unique opportunity for Milan, and we mustn't miss it, because this continuity and synchronicity of an event which is open to the public, but which is a high-level event at the same time, and its connection to the city of Milan is completely unique to Milan. We don't want to miss this opportunity, and Triennale will be a protagonist of this. What are we going to do? Well, we will work on and at Fiera Milano Exhibition Center. We're currently trying to work out how much of the spaces there will be occupied by Salone del Mobile. One portion of the spaces will be occupied by Fiera Milano. We will try to promote environmentalism in Milan with a lot of trees that will be planted at Fiera Milano Exhibition Center, which will ultimately resemble a wood. What are our pavilions going to be like? How are they going to be organized? There will be a section exhibiting products in all their variety. This will be a pavilion not with booths, but where companies will have their space and identity without necessarily having to set up a booth. There will be a wall of products, which is a flexible wall hosting all offerings by companies. At the other end, there will be a common section, since Salone del Mobile will not just be an exhibition, but a small town, including design schools that will present all the projects that have been interrupted or withheld from the public due to COVID. There will be a section dedicated to the history of design, called Compasso d'Oro. There will be a selection of pieces from Compasso d'Oro. There will be spectacular live events and also lectures, seminars, and meetings. There will be food, not just in terms of snacks for our participants, but also in terms of presenting interesting food identities. So there will be a whole galaxy and world of suggestions and offerings. This is a picture of the wall of products, which, as you see, is very flexible, and this is a picture of the common spaces within the pavilions. So each of the pavilions will be a small town of its own with special events. This picture shows works by schools and works by Compasso d'Oro. This is a picture I took yesterday, and the photographer here is Mario Bellini, one of the great masters of design, who is taking a picture of a piece awarded with Compasso d'Oro about 20 years ago. There will be a food dedicated area, and we are also considering using one pavilion to something more important, such as live events that will take place for the first time after the pandemic. Let me close with a reflection which is very important for us. The designers and curators will outline everything down to the smallest detail, and anything we use will be reused. I'm not just talking about recycling materials, I'm talking about the ability to reuse panels, walls, and supports. This will convey the idea of an event which does not lead to any waste, as often happens. I'm the chairperson of an institution that stages exhibitions all the time, and it's very important for me to show that nothing is going to be wasted. So both Salone and others will be offered the opportunity to reuse materials. I'm not going to repeat the thanks to institutions, but I'd like to thank my colleagues from Salone and exhibitors, because I think that this gesture of generosity is a gesture that testifies to the best politics one could ever practice. Thank you, Mr. Boeri. I have to say that I'm not a great design expert, but I do like the Super Salone brand. I like its color. I like its hint at the 1980s. I'm very happy about this. Now I'd like to call the co-designers in order to talk to them. And can my collaborators please quickly disinfect microphones for the next round? Thank you. So the first co-designer is Andrea Caputo. Andrea Caputo is a designer. He has a practice in Milan and China. He is also a researcher. He did a very good, beautiful piece on street culture, and he is very good at transforming concepts which are very complicated into operational architecture. Thank you, Stefano. As previously said, Salone del Mobile will be a very special and unique edition, and therefore will be a assembled in a special way and unlike previous editions. We started off with an analysis of the way exhibitors show their products. Traditionally, booths have represented brands based on a space occupation logic, a square meter logic, a surface area where products are presented. We took the opposite approach and used the linear meter logic. So we are no longer going to use surface areas, but rather a longitudinal surface, as it were, which in architectural terms translates as a wall. There will be a sequence of walls that will provide space for individual exhibitors and which are an ideal tool for creating space hierarchies, in the sense that where walls stops, open and shared spaces begin, which are juxtaposed to the walls. Companies will be able to occupy different spaces, different sizes based on their needs. We believe this solution will enable us to solve the new critical issues, namely brand identities and separations between exhibitors. Along these walls there will be doorways that will enable the public to choose unique routes throughout the wall layout. We are currently designing these doorways, and the doorways will mark the separation between exhibitors. These points may be green areas or hinges of some sort, and may be added with a meeting area for people to sit in. This translates as different approaches in terms of layout. We have more or less already identified the layout for the fair, but we may change it going forward and use a different model or more articulate configurations that will increasingly highlight the vocation of the different sections of the exhibition. These slides are showing the plans for the scenario, but please let me highlight that there is an underlying infrastructure that changes the rules of the game. Now, moving on to the exhibiting potential for brands, I would say that there is incredible potential for companies, because vertical surfaces are a new way of showing products, of exhibiting products, and I believe that there are products which are perfectly compatible with this. There are situations such as this one where the traditional way of showing a layout has been overturned, and this is unique, yes, indeed. So walls are not an untouchable element that has to stay the same. They could be deconstructed and opened up into a sort of scaffolding to create 3D spaces for presenting products. Likewise, walls could come in different depths. We have envisaged 1 meter, but it could be up to 3 meters. That's because for some categories of products it's indispensable to carve out a space. Take lighting design, for example. For these products it's absolutely necessary to be able to control lighting within the fair system. So these walls will be varying in depth and layout. This will give Salone a completely different connotation, but will empower it with new exhibiting tools and potentials. I believe that this year project is a project that points at a different identity of Salone del Mobile by bringing two key values. One for exhibitors. I believe that this exhibition challenge is very ambitious, and it's key for companies that aim to exhibit their products in a different way compared to the past. The second one, the second value is that the general public will experience Salone in a different way and will enjoy a program with much richer content. So we believe that this new layout will truly make the difference. Thank you, Andrea. Please stay here. You can stay, provided that you keep at a distance from the next co-designer, Giorgio Donà. Thank you. By the way, Giorgio Donati is the leader of my interior studio and practice. He has worked on the common areas. Please let me add that the things Andrea has shown can be adjusted and customized based on the needs of individual companies. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I would like to start from the idea of flexibility. Salone del Mobile will be a flexible town, joining together the new experiences. In other words, it won't be an exhibition, but rather a unique experience encompassing exhibitors and manufacturing companies, but also functions that will provide a much more diverse experience. This is a sketch of this unique exhibition of the unique new public spaces that are aimed based on a unique new vision that looks to the future and that rests on sharing and collectiveness. It's a collective space encompassing functions which are not disconnected from the exhibition spaces. Once we identify the best master plan or the best combination of exhibition systems, the common collective spaces will follow suit based on the same configuration. This said, these public areas play a series of functions that should not be seen as something collateral, but rather as a range of projects that help visitors to make the experience and to create their own route through the experience. Now I'm going to get into more detail. I'm going to show you an overview of the spaces which account for the Salone del Mobile identity and the overall idea of it, the overall concept. The approach is based on creating a new experience for each pavilion. So there won't be enclosed things within each pavilion. Pavilions will have shared exhibition spaces and food spaces and seminar spaces and spaces that will be about the history of design and the future of design. So, for example, there will be spaces about the history of design, where the masters of design will show products awarded with Compasso d'Oro in the past. This will be a major event that will be surrounded and interspersed with rest areas and opportunities during which people will be able to conduct their business negotiations. There will also be an area dedicated to presentations, including situations and events and seminars about design and other topics as well. In addition to this, there will be spaces dedicated to food, which doesn't just mean snack bars and places to eat, but rather places that will provide a sensory food experience that will be a way of accounting for food design, and this will contribute to creating this major experience. And finally, there will be an area dedicated to the future. The future being schools and institutions, young designers who are the future design champions. In this area, there will be an exhibition of pieces and works by the students of these design institutes and schools. Thank you. Andrea and Giorgio, please, can you walk out of the stage for safety reasons as I invite Lucas Wegwert on the stage. Lucas Wegwert is a unique figure, a unique designer who works between artisanality and structural renovations. His great strength is having proven that it's possible to reuse large, small, and modular structures. He recently carried out an extraordinary experimentation at Biennale in Venice.
Hello.
And another one a few months ago.
English? No, English. Well, for all the structures we saw now, exhibition walls and the public spaces, we also were working on a material strategy that puts reuse in the foreground. So the aim is that no material that's used in the fair is disposed. At least that's the maximum goal. And to make this possible, we work on a various set of tools. So one is definitely to save as much material as possible. And the other way is to keep a lot of material raw and unprocessed, and believe also in the material aesthetics to make this material accessible for reuse in different contexts. For all the elements that we will develop for the public spaces, we want to work with a modular system that is based on a very simple interface, a knot, and rather simple elements like tubes and pipes. And by doing so, allow that these materials can also be reused within the fair, but also find a way out to be shared in institutions outside the fair, and could find an afterlife in different institutions. So this modular kit can be scaled, so we can use it for the smaller structures like exhibition tables and relax and seating areas, but also the bleachers can be designed in the same way. And by reducing the variety of elements that are needed, we believe that a huge diversity can be achieved by using them in the future in a creative way. Talking about that future, we believe that this is also a tool to engage exchange between different institutions and sharing materials rather than disposing them. And this limitation, or this seemingly limiting aspect, we think is also a source for creativity. So in fact we believe that that's the right way to go, because materials are more and more scarce, and the future will need strategies to not just recycle but also reuse materials. And this is just a starting point. We think that we are at the beginning of this reuse, and also the reuse needs to be at the beginning of the project, so that it's inscribed in the identity of the fair, so that it can be accomplished in a good way. Dankeschön.
So now I'd like to leave the floor to Annina Koivu. Thank you, Lucas. Annina is a curator and author of texts on history and contemporary design, and who is responsible for the design theory course at one of the most prestigious European schools, ECAL at Lausanne. Good afternoon. I'm really pleased to be here to present the project, The Lost Graduation Show, but I will do it in English because it is an appeal for many international schools.
Is The Lost Graduation Show. If it moves forward, but it doesn't. Non l'ha fatta. Vabbè. Scusate. So I start again. What I'm going to present to you is The Lost Graduation Show. It is, now it works. We have to consider that over the last 18 months, thousands of students have graduated in the different international design schools. They have done so, of course, like many others, also with great effort. They have turned their studio or their homes into studios, into workshops, and they have presented the works and discussed their works on the screen, as well as graduated mostly on the screen. And they missed out on the satisfaction of ever having the chance to present themselves publicly. What we want to do with a large, enormous exhibition is to give the platform or create a stage and create the opportunity to all these, or many of these, graduates to present themselves and kind of create a debut to the industry of future designers. How we're going to do it is a collaboration between the schools, as well as great generosity of the Salone del Mobile. What we are hoping to, through an open call, okay, here we go. What we're hoping to do through an open call to all the international design schools to propose us their best of graduation projects. We would also hope that the schools will support and promote their students and all their infrastructural, logistical, give them the infrastructural support so that those works can arrive to Milan. And then with the great generosity of the Salone del Milano, we will take over and review all the projects, organize them by themes, and lay them out in a curated exhibition. I'm saying curated exhibition because it's quite different to maybe the typical school presentations which come to a sort of recruitment fair. Whereas here, looking at all the works and then kind of distilling the themes that come through, which could be anything, and I'm very much looking forward to see that there are going to be a lot of material research or questions of sustainable design, but of course there could also be projects about mobility, about inclusive design, medical design, and so on. So seeing all these different themes emerge from works which come from all over the world, which at the end, it's kind of the message that students and young designers work on the same topics, whether they are in Asia, Africa, North or South America, or Europe. We have reached out already to some schools, so if you consider that in the world there are at least 340 design schools in 61 different countries, we have started reaching out to some of our friends and first contacts and have gotten overwhelmingly positive feedback. So we also hope that some of these schools, like from Milan, the Politecnico, NABA, but also Bolzano, or otherwise El Cal, from Lausanne, or the Design Academy Eindhoven, and so forth, that they also work as sort of promoters and attract other schools to participate. If you consider with the amount of design schools that are in the world, and if we consider that only the minimum of 3 projects could be shipped over to Milan, it's already somewhere beyond 300 projects or 400 projects that we hope to physically install in the fair. And looking forward to that support. As a little last note is that in order to open up the exhibition also to a larger audience who cannot physically be in Milan, we are going to launch a digital platform. It could be as simple as Instagram, and it exists already, where we're going to show and present all these selected projects, but we're also including contact information. So whoever from the industry, manufacturers or other professionals in the design sector want to contact the creatives, there's a kind of direct link and contact to start developing new design together. The message is very important in all of this, that for the last 18 months, the dialogue, or the most important dialogue in the design scene, has sort of stopped. And this exhibition within the Super Salone is one of the elements to kind of re-establish this dialogue and think about what the emerging topics for the future really are. Grazie.
Thank you. Let's move on. We're nearly at the end. Let me anticipate there will be a Q&A session, just 10 minutes, but if you want, you can prepare your questions as of now, because it will be a time for you. We have another co-designer now, Maria Cristina Didero. Thank you. And she's dressed in wonderful colors, I would add. Yes, it's divisive, but true. And most importantly, she is now the co-designer of an extraordinary project. I'd like to thank Maria Cristina for her generosity. Let me quickly say, though, that what Anina showed shows that Salone del Mobile has always worked on young designers. The satellite Salone has been one of the greatest achievements in this respect. Let us now come to Maria Cristina. She's perhaps the best known one among us in the world of design. She's a writer, a designer, an editorialist. She also runs the wallpaper edition of Milan. She has a history of cooperation with the greatest design and fashion companies. The floor to you, Maria Cristina. It's a pleasure to be here today after such a long time. Super Salone is a collective project which aims at bringing the inclusive attention of Salone del Mobile into a more into a yet unseen version at Fiera di Milano. Salone del Mobile has always players of the industry, but ultimately it's the public that's the beating heart of the event. This edition that has been created by Stefano Boeri sees not only the city open, but also the Milan Fair doing so. After such a long time spent being apart from one another, over the past 15 months we have worked on innovation and on thinking of how we could relate to the new normal. We believe that this September edition will be a significant example of openness, generosity, and collective thinking. So when I received the invitation by Stefano to participate in the creation of this ambitious project, I was very happy because my curatorship has always been dedicated to people, more importantly than objects. I hope Stefano is not going to fire me. In other words, people have always played a key role in my curatorship. Therefore, I decided to expand this notion of openness through the organization of a series of meetings that will be broken down into 3 different types. We thought that in this way the audience that will experience Salone del Milano in a different way in this edition will be able to come into contact and to access the main voices of international creativity. So we envisaged an agenda that includes 3 types of meetings: lectures, talks, and so-called conversations. Lectures will be held by the great personality of international creativity, the great masters of today and hopefully of tomorrow. Talks will be theme-based meetings coordinated by a moderator, featuring creative people, designers and architects. And the third category will be more business-centered and will feature company CEOs and architects who will meet the public. Thank you. Thank you, Maria Cristina. And last but not least, Marco Ferrari and Elisa Pasquali of Studio Folder. Obviously, the idea of the coordinated graphical image came from there, and Elisa and Marco, who have worked at Studio Folder since 2014, are the great protagonists of a complex visual and curatorial approach. In order to show this, let me remind you that Broken Nature, the international exhibition that was held here 2 years ago, was curated by Elisa and Marco. Thank you, Stefano. Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon. It's a great pleasure to be here presenting the work we have been doing, starting with the identification of the logo shown by Stefano. Our work is always has concepts as a starting point. Therefore, we focused on keywords that helped us to identify the design for this logo. In order to do this, we tap other visual stimuli. One of them is this picture portraying Reims in her studio, and it tells a great story because at that moment she was exploring new patterns that were born at random, that came from the random observation of the shadow projected by some prototypes of chairs designed by them. These shadows created intersections and new forms. So, fascinated by this apparently random design that had occurred just like this with the help of the sun rays, they decided to go for this and created different visions as well as a new imaginarium, as it were. Another source that we tried to explore was formal images that would help us to investigate connection and an intersection, creating a bridge between the two-dimensional world of graphics and the 3D world of objects, surfaces, and spaces. Another source that's very well known and important is the use of light, and namely how light can become an interface between spaces with different lights and lightings. This is another reference we've used, showing the dialogue between 3D and reusable modular systems. It's an exchange platform. This is the logo we have created. It starts from a linear character with a novel element, the R, that increases the readability of the logo. We added these forms and shapes that excavate and create contracts and lights pointing at opening and growth. It is a logo that's not static but dynamic. It's constantly evolving, and it can generate a family of forms and shapes that can be used and generated in the spaces of Salone del Mobile based on needs and navigation strategies within pavilions. These are the color studies we undertook. We chose green because we believed it went well with the design project, and also because it's a very discrete color that makes for easy readability and for good support to the communication strategy. Not just communication of the initiatives of Super Salone, but also, and here you can see some of the details showing how we aim at focusing on a dynamic and variable and flowing and fluid system. So therefore these forms create a character, a font which is dynamic and that changes depending on how it's used. So far you've seen the small, the medium, and the large versions of the logo. And this is how the logo is going to be used in the signage, helping visitors to get their bearings. We broke down information levels into two: informative and identification signs, and we attached different styles and fonts to help visitors get their bearings. This is one possible implementation example. We're still at the early stages. These are posters that will be used showing how the identity of Super Salone is portrayed, and this is how the logo will appear throughout the city of Milan. The more I see this logo and the more I like it. Thank you so much to both. Would you like to add anything, Mr. Boeri? Yes, I would like to highlight that and to stress that one of the key words is togetherness and collectiveness. The world has changed. In a world where people often work in solitude and alone, I have encountered companies that want to work together, starting from the companies of Salone and the designers who've worked together. These are wonderful signs. So I would like to also thank, in addition to those who were on the stage, Lucrezia De Marco, Anastasia Kucherova, Corinne Dell, who is not here with Lucas, Martina Nitrovic, Jacopo Abate, Isabella Asma, Giovanni Garofalo, Silvia Piana, Martina Gorani, and Paolo Chiorino, who are one piece of this whole story. Thank you. Mr. Boeri, if you want, you can take a seat because it's now Q&A time. So I'd like to ask once again President Feltrin and President Porro to come back up on stage. And now it's time for questions from the audience. Thank you. Here are your microphones. I guess the Q&A works by show of hand. There is a lady who raised her hand. She's standing in the middle of the gallery. Good afternoon. I exchanged a couple of words with architect Stefano Boeri. My question is about Chinese people. This year, many Chinese people won't be able to come due to traveling restrictions because on coming back, people would have to be quarantined for 2 weeks. So I wonder, in order to favor not just Chinese tourists, but tourists from all over the world, have you envisaged some live streaming initiatives aimed not just at China but at the world over? Have you envisaged anything like this? Yes, absolutely. We're very familiar with the Chinese market, and I believe that just as in the physical space, we will provide the opportunity to visit Salone del Mobile also on the digital platform. The digital platform will show not just the identity of the exhibitors, but also the identity of the public that will access through the digital platform all the other events. By the way, the digital platform for Salone will be presented on the 30th of June, so this will be an unmissable opportunity. Yes, absolutely. To support what Stefano said, let me share that the digital platform has been designed with a view to enabling encounters, digital encounters between people, and this can apply both during the pandemic but also in other situations. There is another question from the second row, who is a representative of a very important international company. He looks like a young man. Pasquale Vino from Natuzzi. Congratulations. The aim of Salone del Mobile, the fair, and what's going to happen is very clear to me. What's less clear is the role of Triennale and what's going to happen here, and what role Triennale is going to play as a trade union between the city and Salone del Mobile. I am supposed to answer this question, but I'm not going to, for the very simple reason that I'm here today as the designer of an idea, a concept, a space. I'm not sure if Carla Morogallo, who is the creative director here, I don't know whether she's here because she is the one who's most suitable to answer this question. Please welcome Carla. Is there another microphone for Carla? Yes, there is. Fantastic. The organization has been great today in terms of safety. Thank you. Thank you very much for this improvised invitation by you, Mr. President. I don't know who asked the question. Oh, you. Triennale will be side by side with Salone, as has always done over the years, but with one priority and novelty, namely the idea of designing a cultural innovation representing the history of Salone in a way that's very close to the way we traditionally exhibit things, namely through exhibitions and also through a series of collateral and complementary events. We are currently discussing this, and we believe that we will be able to present a project that is representative of Triennale's presence in the city as an international design icon soon. I would just like to add that I believe that the question The underlying question was whether there will be room for exhibitors at Triennale. The answer is no. Triennale will be dedicated to the more cultural side. It will be a connecting element between Salone and the citizens of Milan. There's another question from the middle. By the way, people wearing masks are a bit difficult to make out. There's a lady over there, and there's another question here. I would like to know whether entry will be free or whether there will be a ticket to be paid and whether there will be any special prices for companies. Who would like to reply? I'm going to reply to the prices and special prices section. Salone has never participated in the trade policies of companies, nor will it do it this time. So we just want to create an opportunity to create leads between private visitors, exhibitors, and the distribution network through this new experience of approaching purchasing through the new digital approach. I think this answers the question. To give you a very pragmatic reply, it will be possible to come into direct contact with companies to make choices, book products, and purchase them through kiosks. And companies, individual exhibitors, will be able to choose their trade policies in the best way so as to create connections with private purchases. There will not be kiosks, but QR code systems. And unlike e-commerce and things that happen in the e-commerce world or what happens in showrooms, people will be able to tap the whole catalogue of exhibitors at Salone. And about tickets, yes, there will be tickets at a price that has not been set yet, but that will not be high at all. There is a lady in the middle, but before she takes the floor, would you like to add anything to your question? Considering that in addition to booths there will be a section regarding meetings and event, are you going to stay open in the evenings in order to enable the audience to take part in these events, since I believe that entries will be limited in number? Yes, we're working with the Milan Trade Fair body and with the organizers of major events at the logistics of this. So this is being considered. Hopefully there will be a specially dedicated pavilion to this, but we're still working on it. Regarding exhibitors, I would like to know how many have already accepted to take part and what the costs will be for them. Yes, there will be costs involved, of course. There will be a session of this press conference for companies, specific to companies, explaining costs and conditions for participating in the furniture fair. There's another lady at my left. It's wonderful. Questions are really enthusing today because one has the impression of being back to normal thanks to these questions. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for this. But I haven't understood whether there will be spaces for interacting with the audience, not just through QR codes, but also physically. Yes, absolutely. Along the walls, there will be rest areas and small spaces where companies will be able to meet end users and customers, but there will also be common spaces and areas offered to exhibitors to exhibit their products, both to the general audience and to other businesses. There's another lady with a question. Oh, no, it's a gentleman. A month ago, a high-tech fair was envisaged that people were very concerned about. So how will the Super Salone idea be offered and presented abroad? When the idea was launched, we were still in the infancy of Super Salone, so no details were shared. Now we have come to a fixed set idea, and this idea will be communicated abroad as well. It will be communicated to more than 100 embassies the world over on the 8th of July through a movie, a video clip that will efficiently communicate the concept. We will also work through agencies that promote Salone del Mobile in various countries. There's another question from a gentleman right in front of me who's wearing a vest. Can you hear me? I'm going to ask the question my colleague asked again. That is, how many companies have decided to adhere, and for people who are in two minds, how much time is available to make a decision? Today is the day of the presentation. Of course, in order to decide whether to participate, companies still need to be fascinated by the project, but through a presentation, and also to be told how much it's going to cost. But in addition to this, there will be some technical steps that will be shared and that will probably make the Salone del Mobile more interesting to exhibitors. But we're not going to illustrate them here because they wouldn't be so interesting. It's just a bunch of technical specifications. So having said that, the 3rd of June is the date, the due date, let me say that Salone del Mobile has been informally promoted to companies, but underwriting enrollment will start on the 3rd of June. Please let me add that design is very complex, ranging from chairs to kitchens. So the strength of the project is proposals that will enable exhibitors to propose different offerings. What you have seen so far is just one part, but when the presentation for exhibitors is held, exhibitors will be able to see the whole gamut of the options and choices that they can have, and so that will be the time to choose. The project, moreover, has been set up in such a way that it can welcome all the requirements of exhibitors. Okay, microphone on. You have partly already answered my question. The other part of my question is whether you have already envisaged how you're going to organize the different categories of design. Well, this is one of the pre-requirements, of course, because just using our imagination with no boundaries is part of the creative side, but obviously manufacturers have needs, and so setting out the different categories is part of the 10 rules that we have provided to Stefano Boeri with a view to making this project visible. Without these, it would have been just a beautiful project, but a very vague one. Well, we have really focused on companies, on manufacturers and exhibitors, and aimed at stressing and highlighting and enhancing the quality of their products. There's another lady with a question. Thank you to the staff for the help you're providing by bringing microphones. There seems to be a wonderful connection between the fair and Triennale, but there is a whole part of the city that has always provided fringe events to Salone del Mobile. So I wonder how other fringe events will take place. So how will people be able to be reminded that the city is participating in this event? It's very difficult to say yes to the invitation we have received to stage the fringe salone, the fuori salone. So I am wondering whether we will be able to participate at all. I think Gisella is right. We have to fell this absolutely absurd, useless and harmful wall. So it is our firm will to give complementarity between two events that are different, even though they are based on the same topic and open. Actually, over the past few years, the city was brought close to trading. Now the opposite is going to take place. The city of Milan has lost a lot of things over the past years. It has lost some of the protagonists of creativity and design. The Enzo Mari exhibition, for example, was inaugurated without Enzo Mari. We've lost Gianni Gismondi, Giovanni Gastel. I'm not going to draw up a list because it's not the right time, but now is a time to be together. So it's absolutely clear to me that this division makes no sense and that we must work within our own identity and with the awareness that we are unique in the world, since there are these two identities that have to be talking with each other. So, Gisella, you will be on board, and me too. Any other questions? There's a lady at the bottom. But then, following that, I don't think there will be time for other questions. Are there any other questions? I'm going to take two more questions then. Or one. Can you hear me? Good. I would like to know a little bit more about the satellite salone, the fuori salone that has always been an important part of Salone del Mobile. As far as I know, there will be important design schools participating, as well as architects. I'd like to know whether the satellite salone is going to take place this year. We've been talking about this. It's clear and obvious that Salone Satellite is one of the key features of Salone del Mobile, and we will try to figure out how to enhance this fundamental piece of the history of Salone this year. Good afternoon. I'd like to know whether, in addition to Triennale, there will be other spaces and institutions that will be open during Salone del Mobile. I think that Gisella previously mentioned the fact that Salone happens simultaneously with Fuori Salone, which is going to be as excellent and extraordinary as it has always been. One extraordinary space was the opening of the Adi Design Museum, but there will certainly be other spaces, other cultural spaces that will be open during Salone. Good. Thank you very much for being so participative. And can you please stay here? And I would like the co-designers to join you on the stage, because it's time to take a picture and we want to include everyone in the picture. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.